The year is 1532. Sultan Süleyman the Magnificent, at the head of an Ottoman army numbering around 100,000 men, marched out of Constantinople with their sights on Europe. It had only been 3 years since the Ottoman army had planted their cannons and banners around the gates of Vienna, the imperial capital of the Habsburgs. The upcoming military campaign's goal was to finish what the Ottoman army had started back in 1529, and that was to plunge deep into Europe and capture Vienna. On his journey up the Danube, the Ottoman Sultan would receive a specially crafted golden crown that he had ordered from the Republic of Venice. The Imperial Ottoman court had placed the order for the crown earlier that year for a staggering 144,500 ducats. The making of the crown was probably conceived as a response to the coronation of the Habsburg ruler Charles V as Holy Roman Emperor 2 years prior by Pope Clement VII. Chief Treasurer Iskander Çelebi and Elvis Gritti, the illegitimate son of the Venetian Doge Andrea Gritti, who lived in Constantinople, would play a huge role in the production and financing of the Golden Crown. Elvis Gritti, a wealthy merchant who had strong ties with the Ottoman imperial court, made a fortune in selling jewels to Sultan Süleyman the Magnificent, who was himself a jewelry enthusiast. The purchasing of the crown is a prime example of Ottoman-Venetian cooperation seen most prominent during the 16th and 17th centuries. Goods from Asia and Europe passed through the ports of the two states, which connected the Ottomans to European manufactured goods and Venice to Asian raw materials. The cooperation between the two states regarding trade also increased during the Grand Viziership of Pagale Ibrahim Pasha, who was himself half Venetian and was a close personal friend to the Sultan. The Western-orientated Pasha seems to have been the guiding spirit behind the Venetian crown project, and he might have also provided gold and jewels from his own collection for its production. The actual production of the crown was seen over by Luigi Carolini, a prominent goldsmith living in Venice. The golden crown resembled more of a helmet than a typical European crown of the era, as it possessed a neck guard and a chin strap to hold the crown in place. The luxurious golden crown was made out of 50 diamonds, 47 rubies, 27 emeralds, 49 pearls, 1 large turquoise gem, and a plumed aigrette with a crescent-shaped mount on top. The helmet's design suggests it was a direct rebuke to both Charles's crown and the 3-tiered tiara worn by the Pope. The 4 tiers of the helmet triumphed the Pope's 3 tiers and advertised that Sultan Süleyman's claim as the true emperor of the Romans and as a world conqueror. On the 12th of May, 1532, the Venetian crown had finally arrived in Edirne, which was inspected by Ibrahim Pasha to his delight and excitement. Due to the immense cost of the crown and the Ottoman army preparing for the upcoming military campaign, the Ottoman treasury only had 100,000 ducats on hand, thus it had to split the remaining costs of the crown into 15,000 ducat monthly payments. Along with the golden crown, a scepter, a bejeweled mirror, horse furnishings, and a bejeweled throne were all presented to the Ottoman Sultan as gifts from his trusted friend and Grand Vizier, Ibrahim Pasha. On his journey to Vienna, Sultan Süleyman would stop at the city of Belgrade, a city that he had conquered only 11 years ago, to showcase his newly acquired riches in a lavish ceremony. The streets of Belgrade were decorated with triumph arches reminiscent to the arches used during the ancient Roman triumphs back in the day. Standard bearers carrying flags and emblems paraded the streets of Belgrade, which were followed by royal pages on horseback with expensive lances. 12 of the Sultan's favorite pages displayed the costly helmets studded with dazzling jewels and pearls, the last one of these being reported to have been the special Venetian crown. Followed by his Grand Vizier, Süleyman rode on a magnificent horse, the saddle of which was estimated to be worth 70,000 ducats, while its chanfron featuring a turquoise as large as an egg was valued around 50,000 ducats. Dressed in a large turban and a fur-lined gold brocade kaftan of royal purple embroidered with jewels, Süleyman wore around his neck an enormous gold chain which attendants held on both sides to relieve the weight. Accompanied by martial musicians, the Sultan rode in triumph under a costly silk brocade canopy, the four poles which were carried by dignitaries of the city. A similar parade was conducted at the city of Niš a couple of days prior to the one in Belgrade, in which an Austrian delegation, who were desperate to sign an armistice with Sultan Süleyman, observed in utter panic. After the parade, the Austrian delegation was invited to the lavish tent of Süleyman, in which he sat on his golden throne alongside with all of his riches, with his Venetian crown taking the center stage. So powerful was the effect of the carefully staged reception ceremony that the Austrian ambassadors, stupefied by the abundance of jewels and gold, turned into speechless corpses, according to a Venetian report. Engravings of the Venetian crown circulated around Europe to the terror of some and to the amazement of others, as Süleyman the Magnificent conducted military campaign after military campaign in Central Europe. However, despite its enormous cost, the crown had little meaning to an Ottoman context, as the sultans did not traditionally wear crowns but instead wore turbans or yusufis. However, the Venetian crown indicates the Ottoman awareness of legitimizing roles of crowns in the West. This awareness had already been demonstrated back in 1529 by Süleyman's investiture of his vassal in Hungary, after which the Sultan began to use the proud title of distributor of crowns to monarchs of the world in correspondence with other European rulers. This event marked the beginning of Ottoman preoccupation with Western emblems of sovereignty as a means to challenge European rivals, a concern that culminated in the purchasing of the Venetian crown. However, 1536 would be a turning point in this type of Ottoman foreign policy, as Grand Vizier Pagale Ibrahim Pasha would be executed by the orders of Süleyman on the Ides of March for largely unknown reasons. Most likely, the strong opposition in more conservative circles to Ibrahim's costly innovations aimed at augmenting the magnificence of the Ottoman court had brought the end to the Ottoman Grand Vizier. After Ibrahim's death, Süleyman's reinforcement of Islamic imperial tradition signaled a change in cultural politics around in the 1540s and 1550s, after which the Ottoman court ceased to seek out such European status symbols. The Venetian crown lost its prestige over time and was either dismantled and sold off or melted down. Although the Venetian crown had lost its significance within the Ottoman court, European engravings continued to publish illustrations of the Venetian crown being worn by various Ottoman monarchs up to the end of the 17th century, as it became a major iconographic symbol for the Ottoman sultans.